The National Freedom Party in KwaZulu-Natal is expected to be one of the key players in the formation of a government in the province. The party, which has one seat, is likely to be going to be a decider on who governs in KZN. The ANC, DA and IFP are set to enter into a coalition that would give them 40 seats. An MK party and EFF coalition would have 39 seats. Joining us is Dr Fikile Vilakazi, who is a political analyst. Dr Vilakazi, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on Daytime Update. Very interesting times, and in just a couple of hours to go, we will have hopefully a 7th administration that has been formed, but also a key province to look at is KZN. We were talking now about that NFP party being the new kingmaker.
Good afternoon, Masa, to you and to viewers at home. Certainly, the clock is ticking on us. There's tensions in different provinces. KwaZulu-Natal, definitely, I think that the National Freedom Party is a deciding factor here, is a kingmaker. And this is what we have been saying, most of us as analysts, that there is no single seat that is not important. Even if you have one seat in this arrangement, you are key. The NFP, in this particular instance, can ask for anything, right? And it depends on which faction, I'm going to call it faction for lack of a better word, is likely to then give them the best of what they can ask for. But they're certainly a deciding factor, because if the MK and the EFF decide to go into a coalition, they definitely need that one seat from the NFP to be able to tie with the other faction of the ANC, DA and IFP. So that is what the situation is. And I mean, I think the politics of the province at this point are such that the expectation would have been, honestly, that the IFP would probably work with Umkhonto weSizwe for simple reasons that are obvious to everybody. They share similar ideologies, similar understandings of the context of KwaZulu-Natal. But my assumption is that I think the IFP is lying in the same bed with the ANC and the DA, probably because they've given them like some promises. Maybe they're giving them a premier, maybe they're giving them like strategic positions within the legislature, which they're not likely to get if they have to work with the MK, because the MK is obviously has got the highest numbers. So it's a question here of positions. Even if the IFP may deny it, I think that's what it is. So the NFP then will have to negotiate itself along those lines, just in terms of what is it that they would want. And I want to imagine that they're probably going to ask for the best part of the pie, because that one vote really means everything, right, in terms of who then governs KZN. And my suspicion is that they're likely to fall in with the MK. And I'm saying this because you've seen on the public domain, Masa and viewers at home, that there have been conversations between the leadership of MK and NFP, and NFP seems to be lying more, in terms of their sentiments towards the MK, and because of the, I don't even have a word for it, but what you have been seeing within the ANC, that this dance that is happening where people are wearing a particular T-shirt and then they vote differently, it may work to the favor of a coalition between the EFF, MK, and NFP, because you're then likely to see a thing like members of the ANC may be voting with the EFF and the MK, as we have seen, which is what has risen to what we now know as the MK. It's literally has been ANC members who are disgruntled, who voted for Umkhonto weSizwe. So my reading of the situation is that we are likely going to emerge tomorrow with a government of KwaZulu-Natal that is led by an coalition government between the MK, EFF and NFP, supported, of course, in terms of making decisions around budgets and putting positions in place by some members of disgruntled ANC cadres.
And as we've seen, Dr. Vilakazi, time in politics is such a fickle thing as well. What was true last week may not be true this week. Just this week already, lots of meetings taking place. What we do know from this week's meetings so far is that the MK party has seemingly consistently snubbed the ANC, but also we had the IFP leader who was giving that media briefing this week as well, saying that There was a meeting that was supposed to take place between the IFP and the MK party, and the MK party did not pitch for that meeting. However, in that very same week, this week, the MK party managed to meet with the NFP. So Ivan Barnes is a very popular man in demand right now. What should we make of that? That while the MK party seemingly snubbed the IFP in that meeting and didn't pitch, but they were able to meet with the NFP.
I think that's very clear to us that they want to govern. You know, the MK is playing its cards in the manner that it wants to govern, and as I've indicated, Masa, the Inkatha Freedom Party can see that. And you know, the thing is, I think IFP here tends to be a loser. It may come out as a loser in this game they are playing, because if the MKP and EFF succeed in this coalition and they win the NFP over, the IFP is left with nothing, literally. You know, I think the DA and the ANC are literally just using, in my view anyway, the IFP in this particular instance and giving it promises. And we know that at national level, also in some of the negotiations, they're probably also selling them the part of the fattest pie to eat, you know. And I think those are promises that may not necessarily stand the test of time, as we have seen in 1993, 1994 coalition government between the IFP, ANC, and the National Party at that time. You know, they are never really, these people, they're never honest. So that is, for me, would be a sad reality. And we know in politics, you know, last night when we slept, things happen. In the early hours of the morning, negotiations continue. The strategist that has been Ubaba Umsholozi, and the demonstrations of the outcomes of that strategy has proven to us so far that the tactics that are being used within Umkhonto weSizwe, somehow they seem to be working, you know, whatever they are. And I mean, we know that the former President Jacob Zuma is one of the, you know, effective strategists. Even when it was in his days as the ANC, he was in the intelligence of the ANC. He was in the intelligence of Umkhonto weSizwe as an army of the nation at that time. So that we can give to him. I think so far it has proven to be working, and I suspect, Masa, that strategy is probably going to give us a surprise tomorrow. Should our readings be correct, I think the IFP is likely to be won over into the MK. If not, of course, they're likely then to be one of the biggest losers when it comes to governance. They will then sit in the opposition benches, you know, possibly, or they will sit in a government of contestation that is likely to be very hard to govern KwaZulu-Natal, and it's not going to work in their favor. And I don't think they'll probably get the premier as they are hoping. So, which is sad, I think, because if they then had to work with Umkhonto weSizwe, they probably would have secured those strategic position and maybe heal the rift of the past as well on matters of importance for KwaZulu-Natal, you know, like resolving the questions Kosini, resolving questions around the Shembe Church, resolving questions just around the role of traditional leadership in a democratic society, which are lingering at this point. And I think those are the two really well-placed political parties, IFP and Umkhonto weSizwe, to be able to address those questions, mainly because of their obvious sentiments and positionality within KwaZulu-Natal.
Well, Dr. Vilakazi, it looks like we will know before the end of today, because the NFP is set to have a media briefing where they're calling it a groundbreaking announcement. So we look forward to that. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and sharing your insights with us. That's Dr. Fikile Vilakazi, who is a political analyst.